1.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Top Deck, episode 10. We are the Magic podcast for the good, the bad, and the lucky, and I, as always, am your host, Christian Kingsbury, and I'm joined once again by our glorious co-host, Eric Knappe. We just did this.
I was about to say I'm feeling a little bit of deja vu here. Like, didn't this just happen?
Yes.
Okay, making sure.
We just recorded yesterday, and as a result, I am already primed and ready to go. I don't know about you, but I feel comfortable.
Well, I mean, this chair's comfortable, so I guess I'm comfortable.
So, for those of you who are listening or watching and aren't somehow otherwise participating, we're talking about Shadows over Innistrad spoilers today. We're going to devote the entire episode to that.
So many spoilers. We haven't talked about them, I think, at all. If we have, it's just been very briefly.
I believe we spoke a small bit 2 or 3 episodes ago, because there just happened to be like that first wave of them, and they were mostly commons. You remember that?
Oh yeah, and I think we got all of the new mechanics in the spoilers.
Correct.
So, Madness, Delirium, etc.
Yeah, so we don't really need to go over into too much detail the set as a whole today. Mm-hmm. We just get to do the fun part, which is pick a card, say why we like it and where we like it, and then argue amongst ourselves as to why that person is wrong for liking that card. But before we get into that, I keep forgetting to tell you something. And I forgot I wanted to bring it up yesterday because it pertained to what we were talking about yesterday, which was our trip to DC for the Grand Prix there. And one thing I didn't mention that we did was that you, I, and Mike, our teammate, we decided to pull all of our gathered uncommons and commons and even some rares that we just didn't have any use for, not worth any money, not competitive, no reason to hold on to them. And we just had no use for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we ended up pulling all those together, and we decided, or, I gave the idea and you guys agreed to collect them, and I was going to give them to a guy I know who is basically just getting into the game. And so we ended up getting an entire fat pack worth of cards, just commons and uncommons, a couple rares, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Collected all those up.
Probably that large Hedron network.
Yeah, I think the aligned Hedron network was in there.
Yeah.
And so he got them. He has them, and he loves them. He was super excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I may, because I've got that huge cardboard box full of commons and uncommons from when I first started playing, and I was buying booster box after booster box after booster box. And I have no need for them really, or no desire to hold on to them for sure. And so I was kind of figuring I'd go through it. Maybe there's anything I kind of like in there, take it out, or if I just want like a one of certain things, maybe I'll grab that. But the rest of them I'm probably just going to give to him too.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to first let you know, Eric, that happened and that he really enjoyed it. So it was a good idea. And also, any listeners out there, if you have commons and uncommons, especially if you go drafting a lot, if you go to a Grand Prix and you have all these excess cards that you're not going to have any use for, don't throw them away. Don't just leave them somewhere. Collect them, and who knows, you might find somebody at a local game store or otherwise that you can just kind of donate the cards to. And, to us, as people who are playing the game currently, they are kind of garbage to us, right? We don't have any use for them. But I would have killed for that when I first started playing. I would have loved to have somebody just give me like a bunch of commons and uncommons, because there were so many I wanted. I was buying packs after packs after packs trying to get these cards because I didn't want to buy singles at the time. And I would have loved that. So
yeah, I mean, it's a great thing to do. I know I've given cards to my brothers before. Unfortunately, they don't really play anymore. But it's
and that can happen.
Yeah. And who cares? It's a bunch of commons and uncommons.
Exactly. Like, there is no cost, right? You've already paid for the cards. If you're not going to do anything with them, just give them up.
Yeah, like bulk commons and uncommons, I think go for like $1 for 1,000 or something.
It's a ridiculously low cost.
Yeah, at most game stores they'll just be like, yeah, give us 1,000, we'll give you $1. Normally in store credit. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, just wanted to get that out there and give you kind of a wrap up to that whole thing, since I never actually mentioned it to you. But anyway, let's get on to our main topic, because we have so many cards that we need to discuss, and I know we're going to run late even after not trying to do so.
This will be a long one. This will be a long one.
It will. And the format in which we're going to do this is I've devised a little game to decide which of us is going to go first in picking a card to talk about. And this little game is what I like to call Plant or Spirit.
Okay.
So I'm going to read off a magic card to you, and you're going to guess if it's a plant or a spirit. And if you get 2 out of 3 right, you can go first.
Okay. So all the pressure is on me. This seems unfair. I feel like this game is
Googling it.
I feel like this game is rigged against me. So
all right. You ready?
Let's do it.
Harbinger of Spring.
That sounds like a spirit.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
You are correct. Harbinger of Spring is 4 and a green. It's from Betrayers of Kamigawa. It is a 2/1 spirit, and it has protection from non-spirit creatures as well as Soul Shift 4. Do you remember what Soul Shift 4 does?
I believe when it dies, you can like find a creature in your graveyard that's got 4 CMC or something. I don't know. It's really weird.
You actually got that very close. The only thing that was wrong about what you said is it's not just any creature, it's a spirit card.
That's right.
And you can put it back into your hand.
Yeah.
All right, so you're already winning here. Let's go with number 2. You ready?
All right.
Gnarled Mass.
Oh, that's easy. That is totally a plant.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, plant.
It's a spirit.
Why is everything a spirit?
Gnarled Mass is a common from Betrayers of Kamigawa.
Because that's the
1
only...
and 2 green and a 3/3 spirit. That's it.
Because that was the only set that had spirits that also were totally could have been plants.
Well, All right, so it all hinges on this last one.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Hold on, where to go? Here we are. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Forked Branch Garami.
Oh, see, you're kind of giving it away there because it's another Kamigawa block thing.
Are you sure about that?
I heard the name and it sounds like it.
So what is your guess?
Spirit.
And is that your final answer?
Yes.
Yes, it's a spirit. From Betrayers of Kamigawa.
Yeah. Come on, man. You made it too easy.
I mean, it was called Forked Branch, and they were all so close to each other in Gather. It was very easy. Yes, Forked Branch Garami is 3 and 2 green, so 5 cost, 4/4 spirit creature with Soul Shift 4 and also Soul Shift 4.
So you do it twice?
You do it twice, I guess.
Okay.
It's an uncommon. It actually seems quite good.
Yeah, that sounds actually really good for an uncommon. Alright, so this means I get to go first because I'm the best.
It also means that Betrayers of Kamigawa had a lot of green spirits that probably just should have been plants.
Yeah, well...
Harbinger of Spring, Gnarled Mass, and Forked Branch Garami, none of which were plants.
If you ever look at the Kamigawa block spirit tokens, they're colorless spirit tokens, but they just look like plants. Like they look like small tree folk, I guess you could say.
Well, there you go. Yes, this will probably not be a recurring game that we play.
No, it's pretty
this
bad game.
One-time joke.
All right,
All
so
right, well, that settles it. Looks like you're going first.
yeah, I am. So I think you probably know which one I'm going to choose here.
Is it a planeswalker?
It is a planeswalker. We've got 4 of them, so
Yes, that's a good
you
point.
got it narrowed down to a 25% chance.
Well, then it's probably going to be Tameo.
It would totally be Tameo if Tameo was in this set instead of Jace.
Well, then it's got to be Jace.
No, because I hate Jace. No, we're going to
right.
talk about Arlen Cord.
Well, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Arlen Cord is our double-sided planeswalker here. Red-green. Cast for 2, red-green. Her front side is Arlen Cord. Back side is Arlen, Embraced by the Moon. So this is exciting. This is our first werewolf planeswalker ever. I believe the only one that exists in the world. Oh god, taxes. The only one that exists in the world of Magic at this point in time. But yeah,
As far as I'm aware.
cast for 2 red green, and she comes down on her human side. She comes down with 3 loyalty and has a +1 until end of turn. Up to 1 target creature gains +2/+2 and vigilance and haste. And then a 0, which is put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield and transform her. So you flip her. She turns into Arlen, Embraced by the Moon, which is still a planeswalker Arlen. So important point here: you cannot have both sides on the field at one time.
Also, to point out, because of that, you can't flip her and then use another ability because it still counts as the same planeswalker.
Yes, transforming in this situation, it's not exiling and coming back or anything like that. It is the same planeswalker. It's just the other side of it. So, backside of Arlen is her +1 is creatures you control gain +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. So a little mini overrun. -1, she deals 3 damage to a creature or a player, and you transform her. And then -6, her ultimate is you get an emblem with creatures you control gain haste and tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. So, like most planeswalkers, it's ultimate, and the text just basically reads you win the game.
In most circumstances, yes.
If you got to a point that you can ultimate a planeswalker, you definitely have enough creatures on the board.
Yeah.
So I am super excited about her. She is the first planeswalker that can flip back and forth. We had
that's one thing that you kind of slipped by, but her backside does have that second ability that transforms her again, and it transforms her back into the first ability or the first side.
Whereas with Garrick Relentless, the previous flip planeswalker, he had 2 0 abilities on his front side. And then when he got down to 2 or fewer loyalty, he would flip, and he was stuck on that side.
Correct.
So it is the first planeswalker that has 5 abilities that are always accessible, even if you can't access them every turn.
Okay, yeah.
They are. Oh, you can always get to them.
In a way, that basically makes it the first 5 ability planeswalker.
I agree. We had Jace.
I mean, sure, you can't argue that, or you can argue rather that because you can't use them all at any given time, it's not quite the same. But, well, okay, I guess if you're going to use that argument, then Garrick Relentless kind of had 5 abilities too, so maybe I'm just wrong.
I consider her the first planeswalker to have 5 readily accessible abilities. Garrick Relentless was a Garrick Relentless.
You have to jump through a lot less hoops.
Yeah. Garrick was a planeswalker that had 2 abilities and then 3 other abilities, not 5 abilities. But yeah, she does all kinds of stuff. Makes tokens, gives trample. I love how it has haste and vigilance on that +1 on her human side, because I don't know. Haste and vigilance and +2/+2. Those are all things that I want on my creatures.
So in a way, both of her abilities on her front side do serve to protect her.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a creature on the board that you think has a chance of living, you can give it +2 vigilance and haste, and then because it has vigilance, it will be there to block.
Yep.
If you are okay with her flipping, then you can just go ahead and put a wolf onto the field. She'll still be at 3 loyalty, which is within bolt range, or, you know, if they for some reason bring back lightning strike or something similar to it, then she is within range of dying to that as well. But you'll find yourself in board states or matchups where that's fine, and you would rather just have an extra 2/2, and then next turn you can maybe start -1ing her to kill things and transform her back. So, you know, both of those abilities can in their own way protect her, and you as the controlling player can choose which one of those abilities you want to be using given your certain circumstances, which is very good.
Yes, she is very flexible. That's the word.
Absolutely.
She's going to fit so well into my Ulash tokens deck. That's probably what I'm most excited about. I am not excited about the fact that she's already at like $35 for pre-order.
Yeah, people like her a lot.
She's good. She's gonna be good.
Yeah, I think that there is no hesitation at all in saying this will be a format staple. Maybe not to the degree that Gideon Ally of Zendikar was, simply because you can't, or at least you probably don't want to be playing as many copies of her in a deck as Gideon. You know, Gideon allowed you to play one and ultimate him immediately, and then possibly even just play another that turn, though that usually didn't happen. But
yeah,
you at least had that option, so you could play up to 4 Gideons, and many decks did. Arlen Cord, I think, could be a solid 2 to 3 of in certain decks. I think what's interesting is that while she does have an overrun ability, you can't just drop her and overrun right then. You do have to wait 1 turn, which is probably for balance purposes. Wizards understands how powerful overrun effects can be now. They've stopped giving overrun effects trample. They've stopped making them so easy to get and limited. And I think this is another step towards that by not allowing you to just drop a planeswalker and then have it immediately have that overrun ability to just win a game out of nowhere. You give your opponent one turn to take care of it, and if they don't, well then then you've earned it. But
also her overrun ability is a plus ability, which is interesting. I don't think we've ever seen something like that.
Well, there are only a few planeswalkers that even have overrun abilities on them in the first place.
Yeah,
so
there's
I don't think so.
Baby Garrick, I think, has
and that one's definitely a minus.
That was his ultimate.
Yeah.
I can't remember any of the other ones.
Is there? I mean, you could say Gideon Ally of Zendikar or something similar to that gives the emblem that gives everything +1/+1, but that's not.
See, I don't consider that
an overrun.
I was about to say, if it doesn't have trample, I don't consider it overrun.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but it is a case-by-case basis, right? Like, I think that the ally from Battle for Zendikar, the 2/1 for 5, that when it enters or you get another ally, everything gets +2/+2 until end of turn, I consider that an overrun.
See, I think the biggest... I guess I just think of... When I think of overrun, I think of trample, and then secondary is the buff.
True. Yeah. In any case, Arlen Cord, very good planeswalker. I love green planeswalkers, but I don't play red basically ever. So sadly, I probably will not be playing this card, but on the positive side, that means I don't have to buy one.
Yep, I'm going to have to buy one. Well, I'm going to have to open one in my pre-release pack.
Open one in the pre-release.
That's the plan. Just open one in pre-release. All right. I think it's your turn.
My turn? All right. Well, I think you know what I'm going to start out with as well.
Probably.
It's not a planeswalker, though.
Surprisingly enough.
Yeah. No, I gotta talk about New Sigarda.
Yep.
So for those of you who don't know, my best and favorite EDH deck, it was kind of my first real commander deck, to be honest. Like, it didn't start out with Sigarda at its helm, but it very quickly turned into that, and it's also the one I've spent the most money on, the most time on, etc. And that was my Sigarda Host of Herons deck, which I now have to specify because we have a second Sigarda.
Yep.
And this is Sigarda Heron's Grace. First off, amazing artwork. Chris Ron, my favorite Magic artist. So glad they gave him the piece to do again. The original Sigarda was part of the reason he even became my favorite Magic artist. And I think he really knocked it out of the park. I love it. I love the color palette and everything. And the card itself, that's right, that's where I was going with this. The card itself is 3 green and a white for a legendary creature angel. It is a 4/5 instead of a 5/5. It still is flying. Sigarda no longer has hexproof, but she gives you, the player, and all humans you control hexproof. She also has an activated ability, 2 generic, as well as exiling any card from your graveyard. Put a 1/1 white human soldier creature token onto the battlefield. So, in case you can't tell, they've turned her from a you can't touch this big flyer to a human kind of tribal lord, in a way.
Yeah.
And this, of course, fits in with the flavor. I love that they chose to have her kind of be against all the rest of the angels, and she's fighting up with the good guys, which I love that. And that really comes through with the card's text. As for the functionality of the card itself, I think that it's going to have a hard time fighting for that slot against New Avacyn, which I know we'll probably touch upon at some point today.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's interesting is that she does beat Avacyn in the air.
Somehow, yeah.
Avacyn being a 4/4, whereas Sigarda is a 4/5, that's kind of a big deal. And if you're playing a human tribal deck, well, this is a lot better, especially since the Avacyn, again, we're going to get to it, but Avacyn will just blow up all your humans anyway. So I'm actually working on constructing, maybe not in real life, but at least, on Tapped Out or to play on Cockatrice or wherever, I am building a human tribal deck with Sigarda at the top. And I'm definitely not playing Avacyn because Sigarda is a lot better in that deck, and I don't want Avacyn in it, which is kind of interesting. A lot of people are upset that she doesn't have hexproof anymore because they're like, oh, what, that's so dumb. That was her thing before, and she should have hexproof because she resisted the going crazy. That doesn't really make sense to me, but I think it's more flavorful to have it this way. She's giving up her protection on herself for the greater good of the human race, which is kind of what's going on. I love this card.
Of course you do. My opinions, flavor-wise, A+.
Mm-hmm.
It wins flavor. It is obviously significantly less powerful than old Sigarda.
Yes.
The ability, the activated ability seems a little bit, I don't know. I don't know how often it's going to come into play.
If we are talking standard, I have done a little bit of gold fishing. Mm-hmm. Once he drops, if they don't kill her within, to actually give you a turn to untap, you could probably get a couple tokens out of it. Yeah. If you're playing an aggressive deck, you're probably going to be top decking by the time you cast her anyway. So it is, I think of it as kind of like icing on the cake, right? She's kind of just your top end. She accidentally protects all your humans, which can sometimes come up maybe. Of course, most of their kill spells can probably just kill her, so I guess they'll go from killing your humans to killing her anyway. Mm-hmm. But that's not always the case. And that exile to make tokens ability is kind of just, I feel like it is just a little bit of extra fuel, right? Mm-hmm. You end up where maybe they board wipe at some point, and you can drop Sigarda, and if she lives, if she's not countered, there's a lot of ifs, But if all that happens, then hey, you get a couple more 1/1s out of it.
Yeah.
She does not work well with Delirium, which is both a flavor win, but also it affects the deck building.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much Delirium there is in green-white. I haven't really looked.
Right.
But, yeah. And that brings me to my second point, though, is her hexproof ability.
Mm-hmm.
If it's, a human deck playing a bunch of humans, and then they drop Sigarda, I don't care about the humans anymore. My focus is going to be Sigarda regardless of whether or not they have hexproof.
And that's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, if being somebody who's trying to build this human deck, it's not really a big bomb deck, at least not at this point based on the spoilers we have. It's it's an aggro deck. I've got like 8 2/1s for 1 in the deck. It's the things that are going to kill it are going to be small board wipes. I know Anger of the Gods is gone now, but things like Anger of the Gods, maybe a Kozilek's Return, something like that. Hexproof doesn't even affect that at all. It definitely, basically what I'm getting at is that if this Sigarda sees no play and she ends up being trash, it actually just won't surprise me at all. I don't think she's really all that powerful, but I do love the card enough to devote my time and energy to trying to make it work, as I always do. It's a green-white deck. I have to make it work, and it's probably not going to be played very much, so that fuels the fire into me even more. So I'm going to try.
All right.
I think it's up to you now.
All right. So I'm going to actually talk about a spoiler that was just released today.
All right.
I think there was only one released today, so I'm sure you know what it is. But it is Burn from Within. Cast for X and a red. It's a sorcery, and it starts out as your pretty typical X and a red spell. It deals X damage to target creature or player. But then it takes a turn for a little bit interesting. If a creature is dealt damage this way, loses indestructible until end of turn. And if it would die that turn, you exile it. I don't think we've ever seen a burn spell that takes away indestructible.
I haven't looked it up, but I know that if it does exist, it's very rare.
Yeah. There's Disintegrate, which gets around regeneration.
Yeah, there are a lot that can get around regeneration, and also there are a few that exile. But I don't think we've seen it losing indestructible.
Yeah, the exile effect is actually a pretty common burn effect. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a damage spell that gets around indestructible like that, which is really interesting.
I mean, it basically breaks the rules, right? That's the whole point of indestructible, is that it can't die to destroy effects.
Yeah, so this is really interesting to me. I think this could see some play if we're seeing indestructible stuff going on, obviously.
Something that's interesting is that immediately people thought of Gideon, right? Because he's indestructible, and they thought, oh man, it's finally a way to deal with Gideon.
But it's
now, for one, that would make this... Well, it's sorcery speed. It would make it 6 mana, and Gideon also says prevent all damage done to him.
Yeah.
So they immediately realized, oh, okay, well, never mind. Where am I going to be needing to use this? And I still don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to open it in limited just because it's a fireball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be a good card. I think it's an interesting card. It's something that we haven't seen before, and even though I know you weren't going to talk about it, I wanted to talk about it before you did.
Oh, you got me. You got to the red burn spell before me. Yeah, no, my opinion on it, it's okay. People didn't think Crater's Claws was going to see play, and then it ended up doing so, but it really only did so because you were most of the time getting more damage out of it than the mana you put in, and that's never going to happen with this card unless there's some sort of weird shenanigans going on with other cards that combo to make it happen. But Crater's Claws, getting Ferocious was easy.
Yeah.
And so you ended up having, a 1-mana card that could deal 2 damage. Sometimes it was a shock, which is not common for your fireball.
Mm-hmm.
And this is always going to cost more than you're probably going to want. Having all that rider text on it is great, but it doesn't stop it from being a sorcery speed fireball. And furthermore, I've seen a little bit about this, and this is something that kind of reflects how I have felt for actually a while now in regards to white and black removal spells. Exiling things and getting around indestructible feels like it's happening more and more and more as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating because, back in the day, they had the berry mechanic, and they had a lot of cards that say it can't be regenerated.
Yeah.
And Mark Rosewater has spoken about this on several occasions, saying, they were hosing regeneration for kind of no reason. Like, it just kind of ruined regeneration to begin with. Like, there was no reason to do that.
Yeah.
But they did it anyway, and it was a big mistake that they ended up stopping. It kind of feels like they're doing the same thing with Indestructible recently. There aren't a lot of Indestructible cards, and those that even are, they end up getting exiled anyway. Or creatures that have awesome on-death effects. Every removal just says exile. I remember in Limited at the GP, I had 3 Oblivion Strikes. Those exile. I faced like a Seed Guardian at one point, and I was like, oh god, this thing is so scary. And I realized I had an Oblivion Strike, and I'm just like, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
All these on-death abilities don't seem to matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, you know what? I think that's a good segue, because I'm going to talk about a white card that kind of mirrors this as well. Let me make sure I get it here. Yes. Declaration in Stone. So Declaration in Stone is a white sorcery, 1 and a white. Exile target creature and all other creatures its controller controls with the same name as that creature. That player investigates for each non-token creature exiled this way. So first of all, it seems like an awesome card, but it's yet another exile removal spell for fairly cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sure, it's offset by the fact that each non-token creature gets them a clue token, which, whatever. That's another thing that I wanted to talk about. But it feels like so much removal is exile-based right now. Things like Anger of the Gods, exiling everything they kill was kind of annoying when you were playing, anything with Death Mist Raptor, or back even further, Voice of Resurgence, right? Voice of Resurgence was supposed to be the super awesome card, but then they had what was it? The 1-mana shock that exiled. I'm failing to remember. Pillar of Flame.
Yeah.
Pillar of Flame. That was in original Innistrad block when Voice came out, and it was like a perfect counter to it. And then, like, as soon as Innistrad rotated out, they had Anger of the Gods, and Voice was still a powerhouse. But as somebody who was playing Voice of Resurgence, it was kind of annoying because every time I went to play it, they had a Detention Sphere, or they had Anger of the Gods, or they had Pillar of Flame, or they had, all these different things that just got around it. And it's like, well, what's the point of even having this awesome on-death ability if every color, every deck has a way to get around it?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like that isn't slowing down anytime soon. When it comes to Indestructible, there's all these exile effects. There was Bile Blight. There's Drown in Sorrow. Well, there was Drown in Sorrow. There is now that burn spell, right, that we were just talking about, that gets around Indestructible. If it's going to die, exile it instead. They're putting all this rider on cards, or these riders on cards, to make them better. But those cards aren't much more playable. They're just hosing any cool creatures with on-death effects. It seems like unnecessarily.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. It's irritating, is what it comes down to. Like, it makes all these creatures worse, even though it doesn't make the cards that much better.
Right. And you could maybe argue that it is a necessary evil, that without this, the creatures would be too powerful. That's fair if that's the case, but I never get to know if that's the case. It's just like, I keep getting excited about all these creatures and like, oh, awesome. If they seem to always have a good kill spell, right? Well, if they kill it, at least I get something out of it, and then that just never happens, or it seems like it happens very rarely.
Mm-hmm.
They give the creatures an upside to get around removal, and then they give the removal an upside to completely counter it. And you're back to square one again.
Yeah.
It's kind of like for counter spells. They keep making counter spells worse and worse, and then they keep giving all these creatures on cast effects.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of opposite is happening in that respect. They're hosing counter spells too much. I don't know. It's weird to me, but that's maybe another topic for another day.
Yeah. I think we will actually be seeing less on cast effects in this coming block, because
I really hope so.
That's a very big kind of staple of the Eldrazi, is having on cast instead of on enter the battlefield effects. So
yeah. Well, let's hope so. Anyway, Declaration in Stone. I mentioned what it did. It's effectively a Bioblight, if you will, in white that is better, but has the offset that it's going to allow your opponent to investigate, get a free clue token for every non-token creature that's exiled that way. I feel like this card can and will see play. I don't necessarily think it will in Modern, which is what some people were thinking. Mostly because of sorcery speed, I think is the big hit that it takes.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of glad it's sorcery speed, because I think it might have been a little too good otherwise in Standard, not in other formats. I could see myself grabbing a copy of this for maybe an EDH deck as just another good removal. White already gets Path and Swords, but outside of that, there aren't a ton of good removal spells.
Mm-hmm. This hoses tokens pretty badly.
Exactly. Which, I mean, does White? I mean, White has board wipes, I guess.
Yeah.
But this takes care of that as well, and for cheap.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this card?
I think it's gonna be pretty decent. Like I said, I think it'll host tokens pretty good. Which we might be. There's a lot of tribal-y stuff that it feels like is going on right now.
Oh well, sure. It's Innistrad.
And normally with tribal, you see a lot of tokens.
Yeah.
Just because they're cheap ways to get more of these dudes out.
I think the wolves, especially werewolf tribe, is going to have more of that than anything else except maybe spirits.
I mean, the ones that we're going to see a lot of are wolves, spirits, and zombies, I think. As far as tokens. Zombies. As far as tokens go.
Yeah, zombies too. All right. Let's go to another card.
All right. So, we're going to talk about Thing in the Ice.
All right.
Because this is a crazy card. Thing in the Ice is 1 and a blue for an 0/4 defender. Pretty terrible, right? You're in? Oh, man.
I'm in.
All right, so it's an 0/4 defender. It enters the battlefield with 4 whole ice counters on it. That is 3 more than 1 ice counter. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you remove an ice counter from it. And then, if it has 0 ice counters on it, you transform it. And it transforms into Awoken Horror, a creature Kraken Horror. And when it transforms into Awoken Horror, return all non-horror creatures to their owner's hand. So it basically is a mass bounce, and also it's a 7/8.
It's also a 7/8.
So,
you know what else is a horror?
What else is a horror?
Spellskite.
Spellskite is a horror. So basically, this thing is never getting anything done to it.
if you're playing the right deck and you get lucky enough.
I feel like this is going to be a powerhouse in Modern.
You're not the only one who thinks that. I don't know if I necessarily think that, but I know you're not alone.
Like, I can just see you, playing this turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then playing, like... See, I'm imagining it in, like, almost a Storm deck, which is incorrect. But
I think more so you'll see it in a Delver deck.
yeah, it definitely would go in a Delver deck really well. But I'm just thinking like a Storm deck. Turn 3 you're going off, and let's say your payload doesn't go off. Well, you still have a 7/8 horror that is, is on the field alone.
That sounds just janky and counterintuitive enough for you to play.
It's totally janky and counterintuitive enough for me to play. For those of you who don't know, I love Storm, even though it's a terrible deck. I think it's hilarious, especially blue-red Storm. So, yeah, this would be like a 4 of in those decks because I don't care.
Yeah, I think what I want to see more so out of this is a new archetype arrive. I don't know what the colors would be, but it would probably involve a lot of Phyrexian mana. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see a control deck come out of this of some sort, where this is the win condition that can, potentially just win games out of nowhere as early as turn 3 or 4. Not win the game by turn 3 or 4, but flip as early as turn 3 or 4, just by letting it survive and then going, probe, serum visions, maybe another probe, maybe a serum visions. Like, that's enough. That's only 2 mana.
Yeah.
But what if it's, a single probe, maybe a single serum visions, and then also the blue card that mills a player for 2, and then you draw a card.
Thought Scour.
Thank you. Wow, you actually knew what I was talking about.
I've played the Storm deck before, and it sometimes runs Thought Scour.
Okay. But yeah, just like one of each of those, and then maybe because you're drawing a card with each of them, maybe you find another copy. That's 3 mana. And this is all just in blue. I mean, if you have, let's say you're playing green, you can add in mutagenic growths. If you're playing red, you can add in gut shots, which is probably the better option. And then this gets to flip on turn 3, and you can attack with it.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It didn't leave the field. So you can it doesn't need haste. You can attack with the 7/8 that just bounced everything as early as turn 3. And maybe you wait 1 turn so that on turn 3 you can play the Spellskite that we mentioned.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And then also just play 1 spell that turn as well, I guess, because it doesn't have to be all in 1 turn.
Yeah.
So yeah. It is understandable that people are kind of all up in arms about this thing, because it could very well be busted. Or at least, I mean, it still dies, right? It still dies to Path to Exile and things like that. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't die to Bolt, not even on its first side.
Yeah, it doesn't even come close to dying to Bolt.
It is a whole 1 away.
Yeah, it dies to 2 bolts. So there's that.
It dies to gut shot, gut shot, gut shot, gut shot.
Yeah, it does.
And then it's only dealing 8 to the opponent.
Congratulations, you just played yourself.
Anything else you wanted to say about that one?
No, that's it. I mean, it's a thing in the ice, and it
is a thing in the ice.
I want to open some in my pools and draft, because
it's not too cheap right now either. So
it's going to be a fun card to play with.
All right. Let's see. What do I want to talk about next? Let's pick a good one. Probably talk about Thalia's Lieutenant.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'm going to preface this by saying that this is part of a cycle. There is a rare tribal lord for each color. They aren't all the same mana cost, and they do different things, but they're all supposed to be like the pushed tribal lord for each color. The white one is Thalia's Lieutenant for humans. The blue one is, I'm trying to find it, Rattle Chains for spirits. The black one is Diregraph Colossus for zombies. The red one is Falconwrath Gorger for vampires. And the green one is Silver Fur Partisan for werewolves. But I want to talk about the white one. So Thalia's Lieutenant is a champion of the parish on steroids, effectively.
Oh my god, is it?
It is 1 and a white for a 1/1 human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other human you control. Whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on Thalia's lieutenant. So what they did, I actually read the article on this card. Champion of the Parish was super good on turn 1, but sucked as a top deck, right?
Yeah.
Thalia's lieutenant, they wanted to be good in both circumstances. So if you play this on turn 2, it's going to get bigger as the game goes on. But if you top deck it after, turn 4 or 5, as long as you have other humans on board, this is going to drop and immediately affect things as well. And that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice to, if you're playing an aggro deck, or you're playing, kind of a one-trick pony deck like tribal decks can tend to be, it's nice to have the ability to go into top deck mode and still let your cards have relevancy to some degree. Yeah, I really like this card. I mentioned I was building the human tribal deck. I was so happy when I saw this because it finally meant, okay, I can actually build a human deck and not a human/ally/tokeny deck.
Yeah.
With Sigarda. Like, this actually is good.
This is it can actually be a human deck now.
Exactly. There isn't, I don't think there's really too much else to say about this. I don't think it's, maybe it sees modern play if you're playing a human tribal deck, but those aren't really that competitive usually. It's kind of like, you're that guy who forces it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really that good in Commander or anything. In Limited, if you draft the human deck, then sure, it's pretty good there.
It's going to be stupid if you get the human deck in Limited. Like, it straight up will be dumb.
Yeah. But apart from that, like I said, not too much else to say. I just very much like the card, and I liked reading the story behind their design on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. It's gonna be stupid, but it is pretty much just Champion of the Parish with a lot of extra power attached to it.
And I'm glad they did it. All right.
All right, so I got another flip card I want to talk about because I love flip cards.
Let's do it.
All right, so this one is Westvale Abbey. This is a land.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this.
This is a land.
I'm excited about this one too.
So it has tap, and it adds a colorless to your mana pool, or 5 in tap and pay 1 life, and you put a 1/1 black and white human cleric onto the battlefield, which is a little bit rough to pay for a 1/1. But then
it's expensive.
Then it has 5 tap and sacrifice 5 creatures, transform Westvale Abbey, and untap it.
Also expensive. So this had better be good.
It's good. So it flips into Ormondal Profane Prince, which is a legendary creature demon. It is a 9/7 with flying, lifelink, indestructible, and haste. Which is ridiculous. It's just
so dumb.
It's so dumb.
So yeah.
Like, I don't know what to say about this besides that's a big dude who's going to deal a lot of damage very quickly.
Yeah. The fact that it has haste and lifelink means that if you ever manage to get this guy to flip, you are going to have a huge life swing that turn.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't just outright kill him.
Or if they don't just scoop.
Yeah.
Like,
and then if they don't die, they had better hope to have one of those awesome exile spells we were talking about.
Yeah, because this is isn't going anywhere. Unless you can somehow give it -X -7.
Nope.
Which, good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Not in standard. So, okay. Let's be real, though. Let's put on our spike helmets.
All
okay.
Right, put on the spike helmet.
This is far too slow and expensive to see a ton of play in other words, this is not Dark Depths. This is not the land that you build your deck around. Probably, it's.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a safe one of, two of, depending on how strict your color requirements are. And I think what you're hoping to do is not have to use the first 5 mana ability on it.
Yeah,
I think what you're hoping to do is drop it out of nowhere when you already have 5 creatures, sacrifice them all, get the 9/7 with haste, flying, lifelink, and indestructible, and either kill them right away, or basically grizzle brand them, right? Where you just gain so much life and deal so much damage immediately that they're kind of like, well,
okay, that's that then.
Yeah, that's just not. I can maybe even kill him, but at this point, you've really stabilized. Mm-hmm. And the 5 creatures you want to be sacrificing are, in most circumstances, probably not going to be, Sigarda.
Yeah.
You're probably looking to play this in some sort of a token deck. Or if they are going to be real creatures, you're doing this to win the game right then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would like to see this in your humans deck, actually, because I feel like it...
Don't worry, I already have a copy of it.
Okay, good. Because I feel like it fits in perfectly. Well...
It absolutely does. It is just a one-of.
Yeah. Thematically, maybe not so much.
If I end up having like 5 creatures, maybe, I had Sigarda outright. They let it live. Maybe I make like 3 tokens with it on the following turn. And they can't kill it. I can end up just having 5 creatures accidentally, and then dropping it and win out of nowhere.
Because
it doesn't enter tapped.
Because flying, lifelink, indestructible haste.
Exactly.
Also 9/7.
Also 9/7. Also amazing art.
Yes, the art is beautiful.
No, I think that this card was a little bit better when I had the deck being more token focused, when I was playing, for Oath of Gideon and a bunch of Gideons and Nissas. Without that, it's possible it isn't as, drop and kill them, but it still has that first ability. And you know what? If you're facing an attrition-based deck, maybe a control deck, I mean, getting 1/1/1 every turn for the cost of 5 mana, technically 6 mana because you're tapping this as well, and 1 life, that can actually just win you games accidentally. Yeah. It's a slow thing, but if you're both top decking, the person with the Westvale Abbey they're going to be ahead.
Just ever so slightly, if they don't kill themselves with the ability.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't. No. Though you can put yourself to 1 and then use the second ability.
And you'll be at 10 again.
Life. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm excited for there to be a deck that does that consistently.
I think it'll exist. I think there will be. In fact, I think a lot of decks are going to play this. I think a surprising amount of decks are going to play this. Not Mutavault rates, but I think people are getting held up with the fact that, but it takes 5 turns to make the 5 dudes and 5 life, and it's expensive. I think this is a lot more of a one of in your deck because you're only playing 2 colors, and you play it, and sometimes you accidentally just win.
Yeah. I don't think you're ever going to be using the make a token ability except for board stally situations.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Indeed it is.
So you're up.
All right. What I want to talk about next here. I mean, there's so many good ones. I just want to pick my favorite one here. All right, let's talk about more Planeswalkers. People you're going to want to hear about them.
Yeah, I guess we've only talked about the one.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and talk about Jace.
I'm sorry.
Eric, why do they do this?
Well, Jace is the best Planeswalker ever. And he's got a new coat, which is very exciting.
He didn't. He just put the hood up.
No, he got a coat. He's got a leather coat now.
Oh, right.
which is
Right.
incredibly exciting and needed to be addressed this set.
Jace, owner of coat, +1. Buy a coat. -2.
Put on the
Release your
coat.
Yeah, I know.
Put on the coat. Ultimate look
draw
fly
card.
as fuck.
I'm so irritated. I wanted Tamio so badly. What are they doing?
Well,
They went so far as to have Tamio in artwork holding Jace up. And then they're like, let's make Jace a planeswalker in this set.
look, his new coat is much more exciting than anything that Tamio could ever say.
So frustrating. Look, all I know is there better be a new Tamio in the next set. If they don't actually have Tamio and Eldritch Moon, rather, I give up. I'm done.
I'm calling it right now. There will be a Tamio and a Liliana in Eldritch Moon.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess we can still talk about this Jace, even though he pisses me off. We have Jace, Unraveler of Secrets.
Wearer of Coats.
Wearer of Coats. 3 and 2 blue for a 5 loyalty planeswalker Jace. +1, scry 1, draw a card. -2, return target creature to its owner's hand. And -8, you get an emblem with whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, counter that spell. He looks fine. He looks pretty good. And I have nothing against the design of the planeswalker.
He's like your generic planeswalker almost.
He's very vanilla, if you want to say that.
Like, he has a plus ability that draws him a card. He has a minus ability that deals with a creature. He has an ultimate.
Yeah, that pretty much wins you the game.
Yeah.
It's just, what's interesting? Imagine this exact template. Imagine that exact, words after the actual name. Then imagine they just said Tamio and they just put Tamio artwork on there and they made it Planeswalker Tamio. Left everything exactly the same. It could have passed off as Tamio and everyone would have been so much happier. I would have been head over heels with this card, but they made it a Jace.
Well, I don't think you're understanding.
Again.
I don't think you're understanding the gravity of the coat situation here. Jace has a new coat. And he wants to show it off.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. I'm going to stop being biased here. I'm going to try to.
Okay.
Like I was saying, the card seems fine. The -2 will be surprisingly powerful in the decks that play this, because I do think there will be decks that play this.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, this card is not good against aggro decks. That's why we have sideboards and also game 2 and 3. That doesn't make the card bad. I was a huge proponent of Jace the Living Guild Pact. It turned out he wasn't that good. So that makes me a little bit more skeptical about this card, because this one is more expensive and I don't know. He does have a coat, I guess.
He's Jace, Wearer of Coats.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, this isn't that different from Jace the Living Guild Pact. You could argue some of its abilities are a little bit better costed, maybe just a little bit stronger. I'm still unsure why Jace the Living Guild Pact didn't see play. Honestly, I thought it was quite good. Maybe this will be good enough, even though it's 1 more mana?
Perhaps. I think the biggest difference between this and the Living Guild Pact is Living Guild Pact didn't actually draw you a card. Whereas...
Oh, that's right.
Unraveler of Secrets does.
That's a huge difference, actually. I didn't catch on to that. It's been a while since I've actually played Living Guild Pact. Yeah. I'm going to say it.
What?
This one has a coat.
He is wearing a coat.
All right, let's go to the next card.
Okay. I think we should probably just get the rest of the Planeswalkers out of the way. So
I agree.
I think I want to talk about Nahiri.
Yeah.
So okay. Nahiri the pissed off. I mean Nahiri the Harbinger. She is 2 red-white for a Planeswalker Nahiri. She comes with 4 whole loyalty counters as soon as she enters the battlefield. Her +2 is just lets you rummage. You can discard a
There
card.
you go. You got the word and everything.
Yep, you can discard a card. If you do, you draw a card. It is a May ability, so you do not have to do it. And you can still
That's
put
interesting.
the 2 counters on her, which is incredibly important because you might only have 1 card in hand, and it's really good. And you don't
It might
want
be another Nahiri, and you'll be glad to get rid of it.
Yeah, maybe. Her -2 exiles target enchantment, tapped artifact, or tapped creature, which is, I mean, it's not bad.
Specific.
It's incredibly specific. And then her -8, search your library for an artifact or creature card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. It gains haste, and return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step.
So what's the first thing everyone goes for when you see that -8?
Everyone goes for Emrakul.
Emrakul, yes.
Every time.
You got it right. That's the answer.
Yeah. Imagine her in like a sneak and show deck.
Possibly. Maybe like copy number 5? 8, 9? Because you're already playing for sneak attack and for show and tell?
Yeah, but the thing with... I think it's show and tell. One of them, you have to have the card in your hand already. So she goes and gets the card, attacks with it, and then you can use the other one.
That is interesting. I don't know. I mean, that's the ultimate, right? We're at that point we're judging the card based on its ultimate.
This is true.
And I don't think they really... I mean, maybe they want to be filtering through their deck a little bit. It is a combo deck, but they probably don't want to discard that much.
Yeah, it's probably not good there. But I don't know. That's the first thing.
It's also 4 mana.
Yeah, which, I mean, you're never going to get to 4 mana in that format, so...
Well, you will, but you're hoping to actually just play sneak attack that turn. What about in not Legacy?
In not Legacy, I mean, big thing here. She's in a madness color, and she enables madness.
I am so glad you didn't mention her clothing. Because coats.
Oh, yeah. Well, she's not wearing a coat. In fact, she's wearing, I'm pretty sure, the same clothes she was wearing in her other card, which I think took place about 1,000 years beforehand.
Girl needs to get some new attire. That's all I'm saying.
Wardrobe needs a bit of an update.
This seems awesome.
Yeah. I've said it to you. I want to play Mardu Madness because it alliterates.
And I sent you the list for Mardu Madness mid-range, which is alliterative even further.
Yeah. I think like her with some vampires and basically just her with some vampires is my deck plan.
You got there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Her with like madness cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my favorite part about Nahiri, besides the art, which again, good art, cool people don't look at explosions. The -2 I think is pretty flavorful, despite, it looks a little weird at first until you think, oh, it's because something hit her or the opponent attacked you, and she comes in to she's angry is all I'm going to say.
So those who haven't really been following this, even just the flavor text on these cards, Nahiri is incredibly pissed off at Soren for all the shit that went down in Zendikar.
Yeah, I think we don't have exact confirmation why, but there is a lot of inferring going on that basically it's, she's mad that he chose Zendikar to... There's a few things he did that maybe he shouldn't have done.
So when the Eldrazi got released, I think there was some Uncharted realms that took place around them that they were all supposed to meet back up eventually. And Soren just kind of never showed up. So she's mad about that, and she went to go look for Soren, and this happened. Basically, Shadows over Innistrad happened. It's inferred that she is messing with Avacyn. That's why Avacyn went crazy. Um, and there's flavor text all over a bunch of the cards in this set that are basically like, Nahiri fucked up everything because she's angry. Like, apparently she kills a bunch of people in Markov Manor.
Yeah, that was Declaration in Stone. We never really touched on it, but the art for that is that basically she came in, made a rock tornado in the building, and then Soren's just kind of standing there like, huh. You can just kind of like imagine him just like silently standing there like, oh god.
Yeah. I know there's
You've all been there, am I right? Okay.
There's flavor text on another card that basically said, Innistrad will suffer like Zendikar suffered or something like that.
Which is pretty badass.
Mm-hmm. So
this is yet another awesome Planeswalker that I love that they accidentally made red, so I can't play it. I don't know why they keep doing that.
Oh, because red's the better color.
They're making my Tamiyo's Jaces. They're making my white and green Planeswalkers angry. It's so dumb.
Did you notice? So this is how you make a Boros-colored Planeswalker. You take a mono-white Planeswalker, and you get them mad.
Yep, and then they want revenge. And now they're red-white because they're angry.
So, we've got Nahiri, and we also had Ajani Vengeant.
Ajani Vengeant, yep.
He was just mad.
2 white-red Planeswalkers.
Yep.
Ajani Mad Cat, Nahiri Mad Core.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
Like I said, I want to do Mardu Mad with her. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah. So I'm just going to let you know right now, I have no intention of finishing right now, but we are almost to an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, cool.
So this is, what did I say? This is going longer than we would anticipate it to go.
I think we anticipated it to go long, so it actually is going as long as we anticipated.
Yeah, and that's fine. I say we keep going.
I'm going to argue pedantics as much as possible.
Final Planeswalker.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Sorin Grim Cutout.
Oh my god,
Sorin
the art.
Grim Nemesis. I'm going to get angry about the art in a second here, but first I'll actually talk about the card, I guess.
Fair enough.
Sorin is a 4 black-white, 6 loyalty Planeswalker, so it's up there. But it looks quite powerful. So like I said, starts at 6, which is high, has a +1, so we can go up to 7. Reveal the top card of your library, and put that card into your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to its CMCs, converted mana cost. As people have already mentioned, the +1 is a win con in itself, not to mention card advantage. Okay. The -X. Sorin deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. So it's kind of like a drain life that can't hit players, equal to the amount of loyalty counters that you want to get rid of. So as much as a -6 with him immediately entering. That's also pretty good.
Yeah, I don't dislike that.
Yeah, I mean, up to something with 5 toughness, is that if that's all they have on the field at the time, he protects himself pretty well in that way, not to mention heals you for 5 at that point. So that's awesome. His win condition -9, put a number of 1/1 black vampire knight creature tokens with lifelink onto the battlefield equal to the highest life total among all players. Interesting. Actually, a lot less win condition-y than probably a lot of the other planeswalkers we've been discussing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine because you probably don't get to or want to ultimate him that much where you're not just going to win anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like this, like, you're going to just be +1, +1, +1, -X every once in a while with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think more often than not, you'll -X when you first play him, and then beyond that, you're probably not going to do it that much.
I mean, +1 is basically, it's Dark Confidant, except the
but
bad thing
reversed.
happens. The bad thing happens to your opponent.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I have heard from people testing this card in rotation standard that he is very good. That doesn't surprise me. He fits that sort of Elspeth Sun's Champion slot, right? That 6-mana planeswalker for your control deck.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have similar abilities to her, but he is similar in the fact that if the way is clear, you just start +1ing and you can win very quickly. If the way is not clear, you can minus him to maybe take care of it. And once everything's said and done, his ultimate will, push the game in your favor tremendously. Not as much as Elspeth Sun's Champion did, in my opinion, at least. I mean, either way, you're probably still going to win, but that's probably also because you got to +1 him a few times. So, I think it goes without saying that this card could and probably will see standard play. It is a bomb in limited.
Oh yeah,
as most planeswalkers are.
This one definitely wins you limited games, immediately.
6 mana is not too expensive for a limited game.
Yeah.
And in sealed, oh my gosh, I want to open this one at the pre-release.
Can I just open all the planeswalkers at the? I mean, we get enough.
Yeah, why not?
We get enough booster packs. I could open all the planeswalkers. I don't mind playing 5.
Maybe one has to be a foil. Easy.
I don't mind playing 5-color Super Friends in pre-release. Like, I won't even care at that point. I could.
No. Real quick, I just want to touch on the art.
I'm so disappointed.
I think that there are... I'm glad you agree. I think that there are 2 cards in this set thus far that have really disappointed me with their art. The second one is the new Olivia, which maybe we should talk about next after I discuss this.
Okay.
But art is objective. People have their opinions. That's fair. There are some rules to art, quote unquote. But what I want to say is kind of mirroring what a lot of the community is saying that I also felt. When I first saw this art, it didn't sit right with me. Something felt off. It felt a little weird. The same goes for the new Olivia Volderin's art.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, they're both by Eric Knappe.
Which is really a shame because he does some really good artwork.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I just actually spoke to Eric, that isn't you, at GPDC. He's an awesome guy. He's done so much artwork. I got more signed by him than any other artist there because he's done so much artwork. He does a lot of Planeswalker artwork. He's very talented. And these pieces of art aren't bad. It's just they're not of the same quality, it feels like, or just something's off. Like, so for this one, his pose, his positioning just feels a little awkward, or like...
I think it's partially that, partially the lighting just doesn't seem quite right.
The lighting's weird, and the background feels kind of off. People say it looks like a cardboard cutout in front of a green screen. It kind of does.
It really does.
And it's unfortunate because I want to love these artworks, but I don't.
Yeah. Also, I've never really noticed this before, but all the planeswalkers, just a little bit, like the top part of their head is poking over the card frame.
Yes. Yeah, that is a normal thing.
And it's every single one of them.
His sword never is.
I don't know. It's kind of funny looking.
Well, I like it. I just think that sometimes it can work against you, like here, where the positioning, in that Z-axis gets a little weird because you're like, well, where's his sword again? Is it behind his shoulder? Like, what's going on here?
It's a place. Yeah, I don't know. The art makes me sad, but the card makes me happy.
Basically, yeah. I think the card's good. Art is less than stellar. I dislike this next card's art even more, though.
All right. I dislike its name.
Oh, yeah, I also dislike that.
All right. So we got a new Olivia Volderen, except that it is Olivia mobilized for war, which...
Olivia, something or other describing her.
Like, how did that make it through design? I don't know. The art
It's
is
just a little silly
yeah,
sounding. It sounds forced.
very forced.
I think someone suggested, "What about Olivia Battle Hardened?" That's so much better.
Yeah, or even battle ready.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Just mobilized for war is very clunky to say.
Olivia, 3 words describing what she's doing.
Um, but yeah, the art on her is just like her kind of floating there, like
I was like, is she flying? Is she falling? Is the camera tilted? Where's the ground? What's in the background? Like, what is going on?
it's just very weird.
It's a little funky.
And it's way too zoomed out. I feel like it would have been a lot better if it was kind of more of a portrait type view.
I absolutely agree. There have been people who on Reddit have altered the picture to show it closer up and a better angle. It looks so much better. Poor Eric DeChamps.
Poor guy. But anyway,
poor guy can't even defend
ignoring everything that's wrong with the card, which is the name and the art. It's a 3-mana Vampire Knight, 1 black red for a 3/3 flyer. And whenever
legendary, of course.
Yep, legendary. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can discard a card, and if you do, you put a +1/+1 counter on that creature, and it gains haste until end of turn and becomes a vampire.
All that stuff.
Really, the important stuff is the +1/+1 counter and the haste. Vampire will help you in tribal, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good card. It's another Madness Enabler, so, another card for that Mardu Madness deck.
Yeah, imagine dropping her, then the next turn you play just a like smallish creature, discard Incorrigible Youths, Madness cost to play Incorrigible Youths, like it's,
and then discard another card.
And then discard another card?
For Incorrigible Youths entering the battlefield.
No, it's just a 5/3 haste that has Madness of 2 and a red.
Yeah, but it entered the battlefield, so you can discard another card to give it a +1/+1 counter.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, that's gross.
Yeah, it is.
Oh. Folks, you are hearing live the first time that I realize what you can do with this card if you have a lot of mana and a lot of cards in hand. Okay, so you can just chain that. Well, isn't that just nasty? I mean, let's be real. It's probably not going to happen that often. You're probably playing this in an aggro deck in standard.
Yeah,
but
your hand is empty by turn 4, but...
You can do that. Yeah. You can do that. Oh, man. That's gross.
So she is definitely she's going to do some silly things. Although I feel like it's kind of a flavor fail that she gives a +1/+1 counter and turns a vampire into a vampire. But you know.
Well, she's mobilized for war, Eric. What else is she gonna do?
Not defy the laws of logic.
Fair enough. Yeah, she's a 3/3 flyer for 3 alone. That's fine. She's a vampire for your vampire synergies.
Yep.
She competes with the slot that Draina, Liberator of Malakir, takes up, who is also a vampire who does different things. Both could be played. It's just they're both 3-drops, right? But what is gross is playing Olivia turn 3, then turn 4 playing Draina, activating Olivia's ability to discard. You know what? Discard the 3-mana burn spell that you can just have become Lightning Bolt when you discard it.
Yeah.
So
I know
you go
that one.
Olivia. Hold on. Let me find what that's called. We'll talk about it in a second, I'm sure.
Fiery Temper.
There you go. Reprint. So you play Olivia turn 3. Turn 4, you drop Draina, discard the card that you just said that I've already forgotten the name of.
Fiery Temper.
Fiery Temper, thank you. Madness cost it. Bolt something possibly in the air that would block Draina. Give Draina +1/+1 haste. Attack with her. She deals combat damage. All the rest of your stuff gets +1/+1 counters. Not to mention you got in a bunch of damage that might have just straight up killed them.
Yeah.
Actually, you can just burn their face with the fiery temper, right?
You could.
That's a possibility, right? So there you go. You're welcome. You're welcome for finding that incredibly obvious synergy.
So yeah, despite the art being crap and the name being crap, I like this card.
I do too. Okay. Let's just talk about Fiery Temper real quick.
Okay.
Since we mentioned it. Fiery Temper is a reprint from something.
I believe it is
from a while ago.
I don't even remember what it was a reprint from. I was going to say original Innistrad, but I was like, no, Madness wasn't in that.
Maybe Time Spiral?
It was Time Spiral. Also there Torment.
Oh, nice. Fiery Temper, 1 red for an instant. Deal 3 damage to a creature or player, but it has Madness for a red. So this is your expensive common bolt that can accidentally just become Lightning Bolt. If you jump through the hoops.
Which does happen on occasion. They print bolts that aren't quite bolts like all the time.
They always do. Not a lot to say here, except that I think you can expect this to see some standard play. You want it in a deck that is discarding things, but in that deck it is going to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not as a 4 of, but I can see it as like a 2 of.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There you go. Seems good and limited. Seems really good and limited.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean...
It's a common.
It's going to be good and limited.
I mean, you don't even need to pay the Madness cost for that to be decent and limited. So for it to be a common is pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was short and sweet. What do you want to talk about next?
So we've had First Harvest, but what about Second Harvest? Second Harvest is a 4-mana enchantment, 2 green, and for each token that you... Or sorry, it's an instant, not an enchantment.
I was going to say not an enchantment.
Yeah. For each token you control, you put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that permanent, so that token. Basically, you double your tokens. It goes into a token deck. It goes into Ulash. That's about all I have to say about it.
It goes into Karametra farming deck because it has the word harvest in it.
It does.
That's basically it. I mean, I don't think that you could argue that this is a really good standard card just because of its huge setup cost and ability to be a just complete dead draw.
Oh yeah, it's not good.
Being instant speed helps it a lot because it does mean that as an example, if your opponent's about to board wipe, you can play this in response, and then it also does nothing.
Yeah.
If they're going to kill one of your tokens, you can play this in response, and effectively pay 4 mana in a card to counteract their probably less expensive kill spell.
Yeah.
So that's a 1-for-1 I can talk about.
To be fair, if they're kill spelling your tokens, they're probably at a point that they're in trouble anyway.
Yeah, you got them with the Second Harvest.
But honestly, the reason that I really wanted to talk about this card is because I wanted to make a second breakfast joke.
Fair enough. You did it.
I did it. Everything is right with the world.
It is. Another short and sweet. We're getting through them quick now.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next? I
want
to talk about.
There's a big one. There's a big one we haven't done.
Archangel?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Archangel Avacyn. She's here, and she's also pissed.
Yeah. I think she's just a little confused. It's really the issue.
Eric, do you want to hear a funny joke?
Okay.
You know how they make a Boros legendary?
Yeah. I think
they take a mono white legendary.
You take a mono white legendary,
and then they make them pissed off, and then they're red white.
Yep. So that's pretty much what happened here.
Yeah. No. In reality, though, we can joke, but the storyline to this set is amazing. I love it. I'm in love with everything that's happening.
For those of you who don't read the Uncharted Realms, stop and start reading the Uncharted Realms.
Also, hammer time. Um, this card is the best the best Sarah Angel of all time. No questions asked.
Yes, it is the best Sarah Angel.
Legendary creature angel, 3 generic white for a 4/4 flying and vigilance. Also flash, which is lovely. I love when creatures have flash.
Flash is a pretty fun mechanic.
It is probably my favorite ability on a creature, competing maybe with lifelink. But flash, I love playing creatures at flash speed, or instant speed rather. And what's nice is that this has more text. There's a lot more text.
Lots.
When Archangel Avacyn enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Okay. So now we have a Sarah Angel that also has flash, that also saves everything on the field when you cast it. We're not done yet. When a non-angel creature you control dies, which is not possible to do easily when you first play her, which I'm sure they did on purpose, but when that happens, you transform her at the beginning of the next upkeep. That's a big deal, because when you transform her, she becomes Avacyn the Purifier. She is now a red legendary creature angel, not a 4/4 anymore. She's a 6/5 flyer now. She got a lot bigger. And when she transforms, she deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. She blows up.
She makes everything explode. You could say she purifies the battlefield. Thus the name. She also does lose. She does lose vigilance.
Yeah.
So
she's not vigilant anymore. She's just pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, she's just kind of angry, and she's gonna attack you in the face.
She will attack you in the face. She is very powerful. This is a very, very powerful card. I don't see this not being a format staple for as long as it's in Standard. This goes in a lot of mid-range decks. I am specifically not playing this card in the humans deck because of its ability to
kill all the humans.
Affect humans. Yeah, it's it would be a flavor fail, but also it's a mechanic fail. I don't want her to blow up my board state.
Seems less than ideal.
Yeah, I'd much rather play Sigarda. I love that they did that, though. I love that they made it work. They got the story to go into the mechanics. That's always awesome. I love that. Could be a cool commander.
Yeah, she is definitely commander worthy. What's interesting about her is she opens up the door for you to play a red-white deck, even though she only only casts for white.
Yes, and commanders with flash are always interesting.
Yes, commanders with flash are always annoying. I heard that's what you said, right?
Yes, that is what I said.
So, yeah, she's interesting. But yeah, color identity is linked to the color of both sides of the card and not the casting cost. It also it refers to anything that's on the card that would be an activated ability.
Correct. Yeah, so this once again follows the trend of them making awesome white or green creatures that I love, cards that I really would love to play, and then they accidentally make them angry, and now suddenly they have red in them, and I can't actually play them in any of my EDH decks.
It seems like the theme of this set is people are mad.
People get mad.
Like Mahiri's mad. Soren seems kind of mad. Arlen's kind of mad. Avacyn's definitely
mad, but she can get mad.
I feel like when she's a wolf, she's mad.
Olivia's mobilized for war.
Yeah, Olivia's mad. Avacyn's mad. Sigarda
Jace
is probably a little angry about all the the kind of bullshit that she's gonna have to go through. Jace has a
Jace
coat.
got a new coat. He can't be mad when he looks so good.
Dude, that coat is styling.
Oh my god. Make it stop. All right, you're next.
I'm next. Where is the one? Oh, yeah. Okay. Angel of Deliverance is going to be a cool card.
Okay.
It is
interesting.
6 white for a creature angel, 6/6. Really expensive casting cost, but it has flying and delirium, which for those of you who don't remember, delirium is when you have 4 different types of cards in your graveyard. When it has delirium, 4 or more different types. When it has delirium, whenever it deals damage, period, it exiles a creature that an opponent controls. So it can deal damage to, an opponent, like you would think. It could deal damage to a creature in combat.
Mm-hmm.
It could have, let's say, Arlene Cord's ultimate went off. She could tap and deal direct damage to somebody, and you could get
Kill something and then exile something else.
Yeah. I love that it's just when it deals damage instead of when it deals combat damage or when it deals damage to a player. It makes it a card that's hard to get rid of, or hard to block, which
hard
means
to prevent the ability.
Yeah, like it's just you don't want it to attack you, and you also don't want it to exist, really. But it is 8 mana, so it's probably only going to see play in EDH.
Yeah, and probably even then only in Reanimator, because no one wants to pay 8 for this.
I would pay 8 for that. Of course, I also wouldn't play
There are
white.
better options.
I also wouldn't play white, so who cares?
No, I play a lot of white EDH, and I don't even want this card in my decks.
But it just exiles things, and then it exiles more things.
So does Angel of Serenity, and freaking
this one keeps
Admonition Angel.
This one keeps.
So does Admonition Angel.
You can't guarantee landfall every single turn.
And you can't guarantee Delirium.
Yeah, but once you get it, it's not going away.
Yeah, I've never heard of Graveyard Hate. I disagree.
I like it better than Admonition Angel, so...
You are... Next card.
Okay.
Let's see, what do I want to talk about next? We do have to wrap this up soon. We are going pretty long now. We're over an hour and a half into this. Maybe just like a couple more cards for each of us.
I say you get 2 more, I'll get 1 more. That'll put us at even numbers, and we'll be good.
Fair enough. That said, let's see. There are probably a few that we should talk about. We can't get to every single tribal lord, but we talked about the one I wanted to talk about. There's the cool board wipe. We could talk about that, but that doesn't have too much to talk about. It just is cool. There's the cool Golgari Mana Dork that has Death Touch, which is pretty interesting.
You should choose a card.
I think, I am. I'm going to choose Anguished Unmaking, I think, is the card we should discuss next.
Okay.
It looks like it's going to be an important card. Anguished Unmaking is 1, a white, and a black for an instant. Exile, again, we're talking about exiling here. Target non-land permanent. You lose 3 life. So it's an instant speed. This is an instant speed Vindicate that can't hit lands. That you lose 3 life when you cast it.
Still seems worth.
Yes, I mean, we don't have Vindicate in Standard. We won't even have Utter End by the time this comes out. So, awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be awesome. It deals lots, or it gets rid of things, and it's pretty cheap, and it's instant speed,
yeah.
Like, the downside is you lose 3 life, okay. I'll take that
Yeah,
downside.
you're gonna find yourself in many circumstances being okay with that. The flavor text is unreal. So if you're not watching, this card is the one to showcase when Soren defeats Avacyn, comes back and says, "You've been bad."
Hey,
The flavor
lady,
text.
you're gonna have to stop.
The flavor text is Soren had created Avacyn, so it was a cruelty beyond imagining, a pain beyond description, that it fell upon him to end her forever. Man.
Yeah, it's a little
Ouch. The heartstrings.
rough.
And the art is equally feels giving. Won't even look at her, man. She's turned away, sword at her head. She's on the ground, and she just is vanishing. He is so sad. Also, this is the game day playmat art.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the game day playmat art, it's a little bit wider, and you can see that on the right you have Jace and Tamio. So she is confirmed existing.
She does survive.
She's totally here. She's at least not dead at some point. So I'm even more pissed that they didn't make a Tamio Planeswalker, at least yet. So dumb. But yeah, this card, multi-format star, if for no other reason that you can play it in EDH pretty well. And in limited, it's removable. You'll play it if you're in the colors. This isn't like you're going to open this and you have to play black-white, but you'll want to.
Well, you're probably going to take it because I have a feeling it's going to be a money rare.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, it's...
Hero's Downfall got up there, if you remember. This is essentially Hero's
Downfall could be played in more decks, and that was also when Mono Black Devotion was a thing.
That is true. But it's still so good.
No, it is definitely good. I think this will see more play in sideboards than not, just because the losing 3 life is not insignificant.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough life to where you go, okay, I did just bolt myself. If I'm playing against an aggro deck, I really don't want this in my hand ever.
This is true.
So maybe you have like 2 or 3 in the sideboard that you bring in. Maybe you have like 1 main board and you can bring in some more copies from the sideboard. Maybe I'm just wrong and the format says there's not enough aggro decks for you to not be playing 4 of these. But the card is amazing nonetheless.
Yeah.
All right. What is your... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that was it.
All right. What is your final card?
My final card is... I'm choosing this one based on the flavor of the card itself, not within the context of the set. Just, I think the card flavor is awesome, and also it's an interesting kind of mechanic that they've added to transform cards.
Okay.
I choose Startled Awake.
Oh, that is not what I thought you were gonna pick.
Nah.
All right, awesome. Let's go for it.
So Startled Awake is 2 blue for a sorcery, and it just says target opponent puts the top 13 cards of his or her graveyard into his or her library. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's the top 13. That's about a quarter of a 60 card deck. It's a few.
And a lot more percent of a 40 card deck.
Yes, a lot more percent of a 40 card deck. But then it has on it 3 blue, put Startled Awake from your graveyard onto the battlefield transformed. What? Activate this at only a time that you could use the sorcery. And its transform side is Persistent Nightmare, which is a creature nightmare with Skulk.
Creature ghost kid.
Yeah, it's a ghost kid. It's a 1/1. So you're not dealing damage with this guy. But it has Skulk, so it can't be blocked by a creature with greater power. And when it deals damage, you can return it to your hand.
And then you get to recast it.
And then you get... So, I mean, it's 9 mana to do 26 cards, but the mechanic
That's a lot, though.
The mechanic... Or sorry, it's actually more than 9 mana. It is 13 mana to do 26 cards.
Yes.
It gets to a point.
Wow. 13 again.
Yeah, it gets to a point where it's a little bit like it's obviously not gonna be a great card, but it's a cool card. It is
I
super neat.
mirror the sentiment that pros have been saying that this thing is busted in limited.
Really? Well, yeah, limited. I can see
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Limited, I can see that.
Just you play it once, they're already going to be almost out of cards at that point
Mhm.
by the time you're casting this. To where if you get to cast it again, you're getting very close to them just being already dead to mill.
Yeah, I mean that's at 26 cards.
That's 26 plus your opening hand of 7, so that's 6. If you have played this twice by turn 6, they're dead.
Yeah, and considering you would play it turn 4, you wouldn't be able to use the ability till turn 5, and you wouldn't be able to attack with it until turn 6. There you go.
Yes. This is something that, especially in a format like Sealed, where things are probably going to be a lot less aggressive, this thing can absolutely... You can build your entire deck around having this as your win condition and then just have, like, walls, right? You can just have blockers and make sure... You can actually play a control deck. You can actually play a mill deck with Startled Awake as your only win condition. Because here's the thing. Even if they go to counter it or something like that, it goes to the grave and then you can still use its ability.
Yeah.
So it is quite persistent, if you will.
Yeah, I think the flavor is super cool. You get Startled Awake, you lose all your cards, and then this nightmare keeps coming back again and again and
Dude,
waking you back up.
I hate getting Startled Awake and just losing all my cards. It is the worst thing.
It's terrible. I don't know. It's awesome. I love the flavor on it. Although the art could use a little bit of help. It looks like...
think?
I feel like it looks like it's like a picture, like an edited, like a photoshopped actual picture of a kid in front of this painted background. It's really...
Huh.
I don't know. That's just my interpretation of how it looks, though.
That's fair enough. I mean, I kind of think the art's pretty cool. It's not my favorite art, but you were the first person I've heard say something negative about the artwork on this card. I've heard mostly positive.
I should say that I don't dislike the art. I dislike it as a Magic card art. At least, especially on the Persistent Nightmare side.
Huh. So you're not a fan of Ghost Kid?
I'm not a fan. I like Ghost Kid. I just don't think Ghost Kid looks like a Magic card.
All I'm saying is he might be a good person. You don't know.
He looks like he's wearing a T-shirt. What Magic card have you ever seen someone just wearing a T-shirt?
He's at least holding a knife.
He is holding a knife.
All right, so now I have to pick the final card?
You have to pick the final card.
Oh, jeez. But there are still so many good ones. Okay. Listeners, you'll have to forgive me if I don't talk about the card that you want me to talk about. We have to end this podcast at some point.
We do.
All right. I think it's got to be Relentless Dead.
All right.
Because we haven't spoken about that on a podcast yet, correct?
We have not.
Okay. Relentless Dead is awesome.
It's pretty cool.
It is awesome on so many levels that it's insane. Well, it's not insane, but it does have menace. Relentless Dead is a mono black mythic, one of the many already spoiled in this set. It is black for a 2/2 zombie with menace. Already, that's decent. Mythic, but certainly rare. Certainly amazing and limited.
Yeah.
Right? But it has 2 more abilities. The first one is that actually they both trigger when it dies. So if you exile this card, it's useless. I hate it. It's so dumb. When it dies, you can either pay black, just single black, and if you do, you return this to its hand. And or, you can do them both if you want to, you can pay X, and if you do, you can return another zombie from your grave to your hand, where X is the converted mana cost of that zombie. And then, as mentioned, on top of that, it's a 2/2 menace for 2 that is a zombie. This card does a lot of work.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming back if they don't have one of the very, very many exile spells that exist, which there are many of.
Are there a lot though?
It's annoying how many there are. Uh, now, on top of all that, the art. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the original Innistrad block, there was a card called Endless Ranks of the Dead. It was also illustrated by Ryan Yee. Is that correct? Ryan Yee? I believe it is. And in that art, it showcases, a giant stained glass window of Avacyn in a church, and then behind it is just a horde of zombies trying to get in. The juxtaposition of the art and the colors and everything about it made it a lot of people's favorite Magic art of all time, a lot of people's favorite of the set for sure. It's a well-known piece of Magic art. Ryan Yee did the art for this card as well, and I love what they allowed him to do with it, what they made him do with it, or what he just chose to do with it, which was it's effectively the same setting, but now the window has been broken through, and Relentless Dead is the zombie that broke through. I love it.
It's pretty cool.
Love it.
I actually didn't know that connection originally until you just said it, and I love it now. Yeah,
man, how'd you not know that?
Well, I was just not familiar with Endless Ranks of the Dead, to be honest.
Well, how cool is that?
It's so awesome? Cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on top of all that, this card seems very powerful.
I mean, this card is definitely good.
You already know this, but people have spoken about this seeing play in Modern. Maybe now finally Zombie Tribal can be a thing, along with a card we haven't technically spoken about. I'm going to speak about just a tiny bit. Diagraph.
Colossus.
Colossus, right? Diagraph Captain is another card. We spoke about this card. Diagraph Colossus is just a 2 and a black for a 2/2 zombie giant. When it enters, you get a +1/+1 counter for each zombie card in your grave, and whenever you cast a zombie spell with it on the field, you get a 2/2 zombie token onto the battlefield tapped. So that card's also good. It's the black zombie lord from the set, the rare. And what you can do in Modern, you go turn 1, either Diagraph Ghoul or Gravecrawler. Awesome. Turn 2, you can play Relentless Dead for black. Turn 3, you can either play Diagraph Colossus, or you can more awesomely play Giraffe's Messenger for black. It's also a zombie. On turn 4, maybe some of your stuff has died. Maybe you're going to use Relentless Dead's ability to bring something back because maybe it dies in combat or something. Maybe you're Gravecrawler, or maybe you've had multiple of them die, and so you're going to recast them. Maybe you've got a kill spell, something. You do something with your mana on turn 4. Maybe it's just another Relentless Dead or 2 or something like that. Turn 5, you play Grey Merchant of Asphodel, who conveniently enough is actually a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a lot of black devotion in these cards. And then in addition to that, because of Relentless Dead's ability, when it dies, if your Grey Merchant's in the grave, you can bring back the Grey Merchant to your hand and recast it, as well as all your other zombies are continuing to come back. Giraffe's Messenger has Undying, so it's going to make them lose life probably twice. It's going to come back even stronger. It's going to be hard to get off the table. That's a 3 devotion, which is a lot. That brings the count up to 5 just alone with it and Grey Merchant. You can splash green. Basically, me and Mike, who we've spoken with, have kind of brainstormed this zombie deck together for Modern, and it plays all that. It splashes green just for kind of like some abrupt decays. We thought about playing Lotleth Troll. It's a possibility. Right now, we're actually playing it with 4 Aether Vials. I'm not confident that that's what the deck wants, but it did do some work for me because it is still Aether Vial.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a bad card.
And the curve is pretty good. You've got your 8 1-drops if you want them to be. We're actually playing with 2 Viscera Seers. Mm-hmm. Even though they're not a zombie, they're a free, cheap way to cheap in that he's a 1-drop free, and that you don't have to pay any mana for the ability to sacrifice at instant speed, which is very effective when so Relentless Dead. Its abilities are only really good if it's dying. If they're exiling it, it makes it not work. And if you don't have the mana at the time when it dies, you don't get anything out of it. Viscera Seer kind of allows us to more easily choose when things are dying, not to mention trigger maybe an undying from Giraffe's Messenger, which I actually, when I was playtesting the deck against him, I got a win for Xaxes. He passed his turn. He was at whatever amount of life. I sacrificed my Giraffe's Messenger to make him lose another 2, as well as get the +1/+1 counter. It goes to my turn, and I swing for lethal exactly as a result of that. So there are some cool connections there. It's free scries while you're doing it. You're usually not doing it for the scry, but hey, if you want to, maybe at the end of their turn, you're top decking, you sacrifice a Gravecrawler or 2, right? And then you get some scries, you draw your card. Maybe it's not what you wanted, maybe it is, and it's kind of cheap, and you can just recast your Grave Crawlers, bring that back. Maybe it was a Greymer. Like there's a lot of different lines of play that you can have with this deck, and it's kind of interesting. I'm curious to see what other people do with that sort of archetype, and it would be awesome to have it actually become a new Modern deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I haven't seen too much about it, but I did get to read all the messages that you guys sent back and forth that day while I was at work. So I have a basic understanding of how the deck works, and it seems really interesting.
I got to play it against him a couple times. He was playing his Jund deck. Your more kind of stock Jund list, your Goyfs, your Lilianas, etc. And I did beat him 2-0. He made some misplays. He was kind of tired, so I kind of don't count it that much. But that said, we both agreed that the deck felt pretty good. It looked pretty good. It felt pretty strong. It wasn't like, oh, he was just mana screwed both times, right? It wasn't like that. I actually was able to outplay him in certain circumstances. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it could be refined, but it's interesting to think that might be a thing.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing more from that.
Well, we have our cutoff. We're not allowed to talk about any more cards, and I already cheated on that, so now we definitely aren't allowed to talk about any more cards.
You cheating cheater.
Cheating cheater. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Eric, where can people find us?
People can find us on Twitter at Jace's New Coat, and
no,
they can find us on Twitter at the Top Deck Cast. You can find me on Twitter at EAK1791. Find you at Twitter at Spootyone. You can email us at thetopdeckcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube by searching for The Top Deck. You can find us at Twitch at twitch.tv/thetopdeckcast. You can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Buzzsprout, most any podcasting app that you got. We are The Top Deck, and I think that's all the things.
Yeah, and if you like what you've heard, if you're on one of those apps especially, just take a second, consider giving us a rating or a review. We would really appreciate it. It would really help us. So if you want to help contribute to our success, that would really be appreciated.
Yep.
All right. So with that said, I think that's going to do it. I want to thank everyone for listening or watching. We had actually some good conversation in chat, so if y'all are still here, I want to really thank you for that. And until next time, may you never be screwed. I'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. So, how do you feel about Jace's New Coat?
I hate you.
All right. If